Hi, it's Eve, and I'm at a great ash tree. It's a 300-year-old tree in Sandy Spring, Maryland, where a Quaker community grew many years ago. It's the first hike I've been on alone in a few years, I think since I lived in Boulder. I really enjoy hiking, but for some reason I was telling myself it was dangerous to go alone. And I think really it was that it felt like too much of a trek, like an effort. Like in Boulder, I could, take a walk and go in a mountain. But here in Maryland and Virginia, where there are actually lots of mountains, I don't know, for some reason I was making it a big deal in my head. I even joined some hiking groups on Meetup. But I realized I didn't really want to go with a group of people. I've been told over the years, one by a doctor that I work closely with, and even recently by like an astrologer, that it's really important for me to exercise like vigorously because of my temperament, just a tendency to be like ungrounded or in my head or anxious and having a lot of maybe frenetic energy that needs to be used up. And so at different times in my life, I've like taken this kind of advice, and like I did kickboxing for a while and didn't really like the teacher and the atmosphere, but kind of forced myself to do it because I felt like I should, and I liked some aspects of it. And then I did Kung Fu for a while, and same thing, I would get in this pattern where I was kind of like forcing myself because I felt like it was good for me. And I really like the idea of being strong, physically very strong. And then I would feel like I never got there, and then beat myself up for, not being committed. So my family is friends with this fitness trainer, and my brother and my sister-in-law are going to him, and my parents are going to start going. So I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Like, I'll work with the trainer. And then like a few years ago, I had like a back issue that was pretty severe. I still have it. It's like a herniated disc. And so that also just made it confusing, because there's a part of me that's like, well, I have to be really careful. And there's another part that's like, I have to even be stronger to, support my body and my bones and all that. Anyways, this idea of working with this trainer, I was like, okay, it could be a whole thing. Like I can get closer to my family, and I will be doing something consistently, and it'll be great to get like individual attention and become strong. And it makes so much sense because, as I'm like kind of coming more out in the world, I'm gonna need to feel really like anchored in myself. But I had a lot of resistance to it, and I figured, oh, this is just resistance because like it's probably really good for me and my ego is just fighting it. But the resistance was really coming from the fact that traditional thing of like eating animal proteins and, being really strict about when you eat, and building up muscle in a certain way using these specific exercises. And it was just like, that's not how I want to be, like I don't even believe in that. So I've been working on these videos to describe the way that sexual slavery is related to creativity. And in it, I talk about the fact that we are, taught in this culture to control everything, to control our bodies and our feelings. And, it hit me that that's what I'm resisting. Not that I can't commit to something, or that I'm afraid to do something that's good for me. It's that I don't want another reason to kind of put myself in this box. It's chasing after another thing and hoping that that's going to make me feel better, right? It's like saying, oh, I'm not whole as I am. Like, I'm too spiritual, I'm too in my head, so I need this thing. I think lately especially, it's like I've been feeling weak because my body's become really sensitive and like getting dizzy sometimes, and it's just like, what everyone says is like, oh, you need to like eat more. Actually, the only thing that works for me to ease the vertigo is fasting. And so it's like so counterintuitive to the way most people think in our culture. And I was kind of going into that too, like, yeah, I'm getting weak, I need to like do these things to get strong. And the thing is, it's not that it's not true that it's important to take care of my body. it's like looking at where the energy of that is stemming from, like the thought that like I need to be stronger, I need to work out, like, and when I look at it, the root of it is like a place of lack. I mean, what I'm saying in these videos is like, where does our true strength come from? It doesn't come from something outside of us, like in this material world that we keep being told it comes from. Like, I'll feel strong, I feel secure if like I finally make enough money, if my physical body, if I can like, you know, have a low body muscle mass ratio or whatever, and fat muscle, I mean. And it's like our strength comes from our connection to ourselves and our nature, to Mother Nature. This thing came up about hiking. Why haven't I been doing that? Because I go on these long walks because I love to be outside, but you know, I live in these communities, so it's not really like as much in nature as I'd like. And when I think about going on a more nature type hike, I just stop myself for some reason. And that resistance is, I think, more the resistance of being afraid of connecting to that level of power. And like, for instance, these videos that I've been working on to like describe my work, I've been working on them for like a month, you know, and I was getting really frustrated because I'm like, what I'm saying, I really believe in and I mean, but when I would record it, it just felt flat. And then finally yesterday, I just got the idea to go outside, and I never thought about doing them outside because, again, I couldn't control the atmosphere, and I was like, the sound's not going to be clear enough, and whatever, it's going to be unprofessional. But I felt so much more connected and alive, and they aren't perfect, and, you know, I didn't have a script in front of me or my notes, but it felt real, you know. And again, I realized like it's like living exactly what I'm talking about, which is, you know, maybe it doesn't fit into this box of what even I am telling myself I should be, but it's allowing what feels good to me, which is like, I always feel more alive when I'm outside, to guide me. And so I just, you know, look online, and I was attracted to this one called the Underground Railroad Trail. I told my mom I was start going hiking alone, and I knew that she'd kind of be worried because I have like a bad sense of direction, and you know, all those fears in my head, like she's the voice of them as well. She's like, why do you have to go alone? Like, it's not safe to go alone, and like, if you are gonna walk somewhere alone, just go to a park. I'm like, no, the whole point is I want to be more like wilderness. And she was just getting really frustrated because she was, you know, worrying. And so then that got me like even more worried, you know. So, but I drove here, and then it started snowing, like a lot, out of nowhere almost. It's not on the weather report that it's going to snow. I purposely picked a day that was supposed to be sunny. And then as I got in my car, it was snowing more and more. It was almost like I couldn't see. And I started to get worried, like, this is like a really bad day to like start going hiking by myself, you know, like I can't even see the trail, like I'm getting cold already, you know, like I wasn't really dressed for like precipitation, you know. And I picked up one of those you know, maps at the start of the trail because I was all paranoid, and so I just put it in my pocket and I start walking, and once I actually got into the trail, it totally cleared up and the sun started shining. So I was like, oh, that's a nice sign. There are certain markers, and one was called the hollow tree, and it was like a huge tree that's, you know, that's hollow inside in the middle, and I just felt like I wanted to sit in there, and I ate, and then I followed the trail again, and at one point I realized I was not on the trail anymore. So I pulled out the little map and got back on the trail, and then as I was walking, I ended up reading what was on the back of the map, and it was describing this trail, and it was doing it in the form of a story, which I thought was really beautiful. Okay, imagine that you are a slave trying to escape to freedom, and you've reached this edge of this forest, and you know that there's like an underground railroad there, and it talks about like what the experience is, and it said that the hollow tree is actually where they would often store food, and sometimes slaves would also sit in there and be able to make fires because they wouldn't be detected because the tree would cover it. Often the slaves would try to make their escape during Christmas time because that was when some were given leave to see their relatives, and it's December 29th right now, so it is the week of Christmas time. And as I was walking, I just started to cry. This this freedom from slavery that I talk about, it's not just a metaphor. All of the external forms of slavery that has gone on in this world and that continues to go on stems inside the way that we imprison ourselves internally, and the way that these are old cultural stories, like stories that said that like one race is superior, stories that say one gender is superior. Like these stories are what cause these external forms of slavery. And it's said that a lot of times they would, when they started the trail, they would start when it was raining, because it would cover their tracks. And the fact that it was like almost a blizzard as soon as I started, and then it cleared up, I just felt really like I was being, well, one, just filled with like gratitude, because it's like I'm not running right now. I'm like taking a fucking walk, and I'm nervous about getting lost, and I have a pack full of food and clothes, and it's just the magnitude of like what people have gone through and still go through today, and also just reminding myself that I've probably gone through it too. This is not the first time I've been here. Oh, and the reason why this is part of the Underground Railroad is because Quakers, they did not allow slavery among their people for 50 to 7,500 years before slavery was actually abolished. And so this was a haven, and it's called Sandy Spring because there's an actual spring that where water is filtered through sand, and it provided water for all these communities around here. It was a meeting place. And the show that I'm performing is one of the locations I'm doing it is called Blueberry Gardens, and it's very close to here. And another venue that I wanted to contact is called Sandy Spring Museum, and I haven't been there, but I used to take Indian classical dance classes and Korean classical dance, and I found out that both of them were performing at the Sandy Spring Museum on the same day, and they don't know each other, and I just thought it was such a amazing synchronicity. And I couldn't go that day, but it just made me think, if they are supporting artists like that, then I'm sure they're aligned with my vision. And coming on this trail today, I realized they the whole community is about supporting this earth, and seeing that we are stewards of the earth, and that we need to take care of the earth and each other. Trees have a lot of meaning for me, and they're prominent in my story, especially the final story. There's a character that is a great flowering tree, and also like the tree of life idea that births a new world. And just a note, so I haven't been making some of these videos because I realized, they seem so like, what's the point, in terms of originally they were about steps to manifesting this show, which manifested in its way on the date that I had set. And then I was continuing to make the videos because I knew that the show was still evolving. I realized that as I was making them, some of them, they don't seem related at all, and I felt like I should get clear on what I'm really doing with these videos so I can explain it. And I just realized, there's nothing to explain. Everything is connected, and just like today going on this hike, I was not relating it to the idea of slavery and freedom. I was not expecting to even be in this town, which is, where I'm thinking of holding my show. So everything in our life is pointing us, is trying to guide us towards our greatest desire, which is to share our gifts. And since the vision that came to me is about performing this show, expression from my soul, then everything that happens in my life is going to be related to it. So I'm going to keep going